Hello, my name is Adriana Pete, and this is my video for TEL 531 for Foundations of Literacy in the Science of Reading, and this is for my Module 1 SLO Artifact Option 1, and that is to do a 5 to 7 minute recorded video, and this is going over the foundational resources that demonstrate knowledge. So how the science of reading affects instruction across developmental stages for students with dyslexia. I looked at two resources within the foundational resources, and which is the webinar, Understanding Dyslexia and How to Identify and Prevent and Remediate word level reading and difficulties. And then the second one was the reading skills at different ages by Amanda Morin. So when the webinar talked about what dyslexia is and how we as teachers recognize and are to help students with dyslexia, I really loved the webinar, and it was amazing. And then the science or the reading skills at different ages helped me understand the developmental stages. So there was babies, toddlers, there's preschoolers, there's kindergarten, and then it keeps going from there. I like to first explain how the science of reading is, and that is through a letter sound acknowledgement, and then we continue to go from just learning letters to then going into phonics or phonological awareness, and then we begin to map and decode words that can be regular words, nonsense words, and then we continue to build sentence structures, which leads then to creating bigger sentence structures, and that creates a time for reading and comprehension. So how students are affected in these domains of their different developmental stages is through going through, when having dyslexia, they begin to it takes a longer time for them to build these areas in their developmental stages. For example, we see preschoolers, they should be knowing the correct way to handle a book, and that is print knowledge of print, and being able to know to read from left to right, retelling stories, noticing that words rhyme, also starting to match letter to sound, and they can even recognize their names in print. And then with students with dyslexia, we can often see patterns in the late learning to talk, or slow to learn a few words, or even trouble in pronouncing speech and sounds. And then often letters can confuse them. It's not something to do with their sight. The webinar very much explained that and was able to explain that it's nothing to do with their vision, but they can't recall sounds or letters, and then they're unable to break words into separate speech and sounds, such as like diagrams. And so I was able to see where they are developmentally and where they should be at through the reading skills in different ages, and through understanding dyslexia and how it correlates and plays a part into the developmental stages of reading. I saw that this was a complete, it went into each developmental domain, and therefore that's how the science of reading affects students when learning stages or developmental stages, and how dyslexia affects those developmental stages. I hope this makes sense, but this was very fun, and I'm happy that you were able to listen to the 2 resources that I used and was able to learn from and understand these different levels of domains with students with dyslexia. Thank you.